But I gotta say, and I'm friendly with the ladies on The View, but they didn't say anything about this week. Nothing. You know, because it's never been their thing to weigh in on the issues.
Did y'all really think we weren't gonna talk about Jimmy Kimmel? I mean, have you watched the show over the last 29 seasons? So you know, no one silences us.
So Whoopi and The View are freaking out, and it's honestly funny. Just last week, Bill Maher mocked The View for being too afraid to bring up Jimmy Kimmel's problem. The View has always jumped on every headline since it began, remember a few weeks back, when I showed that clip of a former panelist admitting they often get just hours to prep before tackling big controversies. Exactly. That's why it stunned viewers when right after Jimmy's suspension, The View went on air pretending they didn't know ABC had pulled Kimmel. Maher ripped into them for being too scared to jeopardize their comfortable spots by bringing him up. But here's the twist. The View finally spoke out. And what they said is unbelievable.
Did y'all really think we weren't gonna talk about Jimmy Kimmel? I mean, have you watched the show over the last 29 seasons? So you know, no one silences us. And to all my friends in Italy who reached out, you have to know it's okay, we're still here, we're still broadcasting. And when the news broke last week about Jimmy Kimmel's suspension, we took a breath to see if Jimmy was going to say anything about it first. We did the same thing with Stephen Colbert.
That's not true. In just a moment, I'll break down why they finally chose to comment on Jimmy Kimmel's situation. But the narrative that they paused to listen to Kimmel and allegedly acted the same way when Colbert's scandal broke is pure fabrication and spin. Let's rewind. Immediately after Colbert was fired, The View didn't wait around for an official statement. They jumped in right away with commentary, criticisms, and hot takes. Honestly, since when have Whoopi or her co-hosts ever kept their opinions to themselves to avoid controversy? The answer is never. So, Whoopi's claim falls apart under scrutiny. No point in stalling. Roll the clip now and watch how it actually played out.
And our show was on tape on Friday. But we are live here today. And we're getting into it now. You cannot like a show. Now, I want to make sure I got this right. To be clear, you cannot like a show and it can go off the air. Mm-hmm. Someone can say something they shouldn't and get taken off the air, but the government cannot apply pressure to force someone to be silent.
Did you notice how unusually cautious Whoopi was while reading that statement? It was almost laughable. She looked genuinely worried that one wrong word might get her in trouble or even cost her the job. Since when has Whoopi Goldberg ever been precise about sticking to a teleprompter? Exactly. Never. So, let's drop the tough act because that nervous delivery exposed everything. And here's the twist. Jimmy Kimmel is already back on ABC after what now appears to have been just a short suspension. The View always knew he was returning, which is exactly why they finally spoke up. Suddenly bold, but only once the coast was clear. Meanwhile, Ma kept piling on with his shots at The View.
The FCC says they're going to go after maybe next The View. They got a new show lined up. It's going to be great. It's called Morning Wood with James Wood.
Maher didn't hold back. He openly mocked The View, joking they could be next after Jimmy's suspension swapped out for newer programming. And honestly, that thought crossed my mind, too. Now, to be clear, I'm not on the cancel The View train. Like them or not, they've cemented their place in daytime TV. But here's the issue. They constantly fire off takes without verifying anything. They'll bend a headline, blow up a scandal, and push it as solid fact before the story even settles. That's not fearless. It's careless. If anything, this mess should be a wake-up call. Nobody's saying they need to vanish completely. But maybe it's time they realize credibility counts, because if they keep playing loose with the truth, Maher's jab might not stay a punchline. It could become a preview. And yes, Ma also lobbed a shot at Jimmy Kimmel.
And, Jimmy, look, I don't think what he said was exactly right. I don't. We don't agree on that. He didn't lose his job for it. He said the MAGA crowd was trying to characterize the assassin as anything but one of them, because the 22-year-old kid, his family was MAGA. As if a 22-year-old with a trans girlfriend never rebelled against their family.
Credit where it's due. Maher is just about the only voice on the left willing to state the obvious. Jimmy was wrong. Meanwhile, almost every other comedian twisted themselves into knots defending Kimmel's remarks, insisting there was nothing offensive about them.
But was he on the left? I don't know that either. And I hate to do this. I'm tipping the end of the show, which I work so hard on to keep a secret from the rest of the show. But it's too relevant. What I'm talking about at the end, I'm going to have to say now, which is that it is a fool's errand to try to say that these nuts who do these things are any team.
Ma cut through all the noise. He plainly said Jimmy went too far, but also argued it wasn't ground for losing his job. And honestly, he's right on both points. Kimmel shouldn't have been fired, and technically he wasn't. What he got was basically a slap on the wrist, a short suspension dressed up to look like real punishment. Let's be clear, though, that suspension wasn't really about discipline. It was ABC's way of saving face, acting like they were holding him accountable while fully planning to bring him back. Ma called it exactly how it was. And that kind of honesty, as rare as it is, set him apart from the rest.
But, look at what this guy is doing. I mean, Jimmy has every right to be wrong, but look at this guy. He was doing porn video games with furries. He was on a game called Furry Shades of Gay 3. This kid is in his basement with VR goggles on, getting virtually by a cartoon wombat? And you're going to put politics into this?
Bill kept the pressure on with sharp, sarcastic digs at Jimmy Kimmel for rushing to blame MAGA. The point behind Maher's humor was obvious. Jimmy should have done his homework instead of politicizing a tragedy to score easy points. A few minutes of fact-checking would have saved him from humiliating himself on national TV. If he had slowed down, he would have realized the incident didn't fit neatly into any political category. No MAGA connection, no clear ideology, just a disturbed individual. But Kimmel, eager to ride the anti-MAGA wave, dove in without proof. That's why Maher's mockery hit so hard, because it was accurate. Jimmy's snap judgment wasn't just careless. It exposed him as partisan and reckless. In the end, Maher's point wasn't just about Kimmel. It was a reminder that facts matter more than spin.
This kid doesn't belong in either party. He belongs in a straitjacket. He's an outpatient who should not be out. But you have the right to be wrong or to have any opinion you want. That's what the First Amendment is all about. I was defending it last week on this show against what they're doing in England against the left. Come on, guys, be fair.
Okay, let's pause and break this down. The main reason Jimmy Kimmel was pulled from late-night TV wasn't really about his words. It was about the money. As soon as he launched into those anti-MAGA remarks, Disney, ABC's parent company, saw its stock tumble, and it wasn't some minor dip. Reports say Disney stock slid about 2%, erasing nearly $4 billion in market value within hours of Jimmy's rant. Losses like that send shockwaves through both investors and executives. So ABC didn't sideline Kimmel out of principle or morality. They did it to stop the financial bleeding. It was pure damage control. When billions are at stake, protecting shareholders comes before protecting a late-night host. Kimmel's suspension wasn't just discipline. It was a sacrifice to safeguard Disney's bottom line.